How's it going, guys? So I just left the gym and something told me to pull over into a cemetery that's on the way back, and that sounds kind of crazy and weird, and it might to some people because I have no family members or friends or anyone I know in the cemetery. But I recently lost one of my best friends, and it hits me in waves still to this day. But I will say I have made peace with it. It's hard. It's very hard because when I got the news, he took his life. So happens my son was born a few days later, and I'm just like, you can't even imagine the scale of emotions, the range of emotions I was really dealing with. It was really hard. It's really hard because I had to grieve for losing one of my best friends to gaining one of the biggest blessings in my entire life, my son who was born. And wow, it's like I had to grieve and I had to celebrate at the same time, and that's a hard thing to do. I had to kind of put up a wall for a moment and say, all right, I have to come back to my friend passing later, and right now I got to celebrate my son's birth. I believe God wants me to focus on the life that came into this world, and it was so hard to do, but he through Christ you can do these things, and in the natural realm and the day-to-day natural logical thinking, you can't do it. And that's why I know God is real. He allows us to face hard times, and they don't seem fair to us, but he has a plan, and it sounds crazy sometimes. And I pulled into the cemetery to explain to you guys the plan he has for you. So there's many headstones here. There's many people that have passed away, right? And they're physically gone. They're in the grave. And it just got me thinking. A lot of people live like they're dead today, but they're alive and breathing, but they live like they're dead. And it's like, that's been me. That's all of us, really, at some point, whether we turn from it or not. But my point is that some of us live in a grave even though we're breathing. We're trapped, right? People can be trapped by anxieties or fears or doubts or just pain in their past of losing a loved one, and they've never really dealt to the root of it. They just brush it under the rug and put band-aids over their heart, and it's a wound that never heals. They keep numbing themselves. They drink more alcohol, they smoke more weed, they have more sex, they do things they shouldn't do, they gossip, they find ways to numb themselves, to get past their own pain, to find voids out there in the world, to continue on thinking they're okay, but deep down they're not. And I pulled into this cemetery because God told me that a lot of us live that way today, like we're dead, but we're alive, we're breathing. And I was thinking the first part of what I wanted to say is God calls us to come out of the grave. And the reason how I can confidently say that is, yes, Jesus died on the cross, right? And a lot of people might mock that he died on the cross, but also he did not just die. He rose again. That is how we can have salvation in him. And this is not something we could earn ever. And I want to point out, there is not one person better than the next that deserves God more than the next. We all fall short to the glory of God, each and every single one of us. And so what I wanted to tell people is, tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow's not promised. We could live 30 more years, 50 more years. We could die tomorrow. You never know, right? We never know when it's our time, really, because we do live in a world where there is sickness, disease, and death, and all these things. We're in a fallen world, and that's not God's design. He He didn't put this so we would suffer. He doesn't want us to suffer. And so Jesus went to the cross. He suffered. He paid the price. He poured out his blood so that we wouldn't have to suffer. We wouldn't have to die and go to hell and die and just have an emptiness, because the reason why he did that is because he loves us. And that's the part people need to really see. Like, it's not a message of religion or do this. It's, do this or you're just some messed up person. We're all messed up. Okay, let's start there. We're all messed up. No one is more deserving than the next. I don't care if you grew up in church your whole life or you found God in your life later on. It does not matter. We all have to come to this point in our life, though, where we acknowledge the truth. And we acknowledge, what? I am dead inside. Who have I become? And that's what he wants us to know. That's why he went to the cross, died, and rose again, so that we would be free completely, not living dead, and that we may know true love, because his love never fails. That's the thing. It never fails. His peace never fails. It's there for everyone, but many don't want it. They push it away and they say, I don't want that. I think my way's better. And I'm here to say your way's not better. His ways are higher than your ways. So that's step one, is come to the truth. Come to that point in your life, in your heart, where we all have done it. We've all have seeked things to numb ourselves, to move on through each day like everything's okay. The only thing that can make you whole is when you come to the cross and believe in God and understand the love he has for you. He doesn't want you to suffer. He wants you to live in complete freedom of the world, where you don't have to be chained down. No matter where you came from, it really doesn't. He will give you a new life and a new heart he'll put within you when you come to that point of, I am going to repent of my sins, Lord, and I'm going to turn from them. I want to surrender my will, and I want your will over my life. It's that simple. Once you ask that, you can confess it with your mouth and believe it in your heart. He's going to begin to do a work in you and show you that he's there. He is there. And so, he doesn't want us to live dead, number one. He wants us to be living alive. He wants us to have joy, because guess what? He wants us to show the world that he's there through his Spirit. It's nothing we could make or fabricate on our own, because it won't work that way. And so once we show the world that there is hope, that there is a peace that God offers that the world can't. And once you get to that point, you have eternity in heaven. That's one of the greatest things. So he calls you to come out of the grave while you're alive, while you're here, so that when it comes your time to pass away, which we don't know, it could be tomorrow, it could be next year, it could be 30 years, 50 years. The point is, you should be ready, because what's the point of living this life and holding on so tight to this life when you know there's eternity on the other side? You have a soul and a spirit within you, right? So think about it. It's something to think about, that just because there's tombstones, just because people are cremated, they're not gone. If they accepted the Lord into their heart, they're not gone. They're alive. And so that's the truth right there. We can go out into this world with the idea of, I want to make the most money, I want to drink the most alcohol, I want to party all day, I want to have sex all the time. Like, you can go out there with that mentality thinking that's living. You're going to be left empty. You're going to be stuck on the rat race, on the hamster wheel, just chasing things that will never fulfill you. Never. And that's just the truth. God wanted me to share that. So come up out of that grave if you've been dead, and he will give you a new life. He'll rewrite your story, give you a new heart, new spirit, He will open up the eyes of your heart. He will help you to see clear of what your purpose is in life. We're not here just do whatever we want and, like, just die, pay bills and die. Like, no. Like, he wants you to be free. He wants you to know love. He wants you to know he loves you. And that he died on the cross, but he didn't just die, he rose. Remember that. When people say he died, yes, but he rose. That's a big important part. I know some churches will have Jesus on the cross, just like here at the cemetery. And sometimes it's a good thing to remember he went through pain because he loved us. He went through real pain. And, but that's not the end of the story. They took him off the cross. He rose again. Without that, we have nothing. We have no salvation. We have no freedom. It's one thing to die to yourself, but it's another to gain the mind of Christ, to walk in the Spirit, not the flesh. And so he's off the cross. He rose, and that same Spirit lives within you once you turn and acknowledge it and say, I want that. Like, humble yourself. Come to him. I know you're facing a lot. Whoever's watching this, you might be going through a hard time. You might even believe in the Lord, but you might struggle with being free. I just want to encourage you that, hey, sometimes we got to go a little deeper in our prayer and just ask him, hey, not just give me the strength, but say, God, I give it all to you. I give it all to you. Make me new. I want the evidence to be shown through me that you're alive, moving in the body of believers.